Welcome to the lecture 12. Here we are going to discuss about the India Independence Act of 1947 by the British of the British Parliament. Okay, so in pursuance of this act, the Government of India Act that we had studied, Government of India Act of 1935 was amended by the adaptation order both in India and Pakistan for setting up an interim constitution assembly to draw up the future of the constitution of the country. So through this, under this act, they amended the Government of India Act to make a separate assembly, constituent assembly, to make a separate constituent assembly to form their future constitution of their country. I'm talking about both India and Pakistan. Okay, now second important point, from 15th August 1947, India ceased to be a dependency and suzerainty of the British Crown over the Indian states, and treaty relations with the tribal areas lapsed from that. Even whatever the treaties that were formed by the British for the tribal government, for the tribal people, that were also ceased to exist from that day, from this day, 15th August 1947. In referendum held on 6th July 1946, there was one referendum that was taken place on 6th July 1940. Referendum means what? Like people of that area will come and vote whether they want to be with India, whether they want to be with country A or they want to be the country B. That is called the referendum. Okay, so the referendum was held on 6th July 1947 for the region Sylhet of Assam, and they decided to join the provinces of East Bengal. They decided to join the province of East Bengal, which is nothing but your new country that was called as a Pakistan. And now this is not exist as Pakistan. This is exist as a Bangladesh. Okay. So, and the office of the Secretary of State, as I've said, the Secretary of State was responsible for the crown. So the office of the Secretary of State was ceased to exist from this day. Okay, the Governor General and the Governor lost their extraordinary power of legislation to complete the legislation. Okay, from this day, and the central legislation of the India composed of, now the central legislation of the India central government will be composed of Legislative Assembly and the Council of States ceased to exist. That nowhere, now they won't be exist from the 1947. These were all the things that were British used for their administrative purpose. And the Constituent Assembly itself was to function also as a central legislature with complete sovereignty. There is no dependency on any other regions or any other parliament. Okay, so India Act of Independence, what happened? The government, they amended the adaptation of the Government of India Act 1935. Through this, the Constituent Assembly will be there, separate assembly will be there for India and Pakistan, that they will use for formation of their constitution, for their future constitution of the country. And from 15th August 1947, whatever the treaties were formed, treaties were there for the tribal people, will also be ceased to exist. And from 15th August 1947, India will be declared as independent. Okay, there will be no dependency and sovereignty of the British Crown. Okay, and from 6th July 1947, the in Sylhet, Assam, one referendum was held into this area, and they decided to join with the East Bengal. East Bengal is nothing but your new Pakistan, and new Pakistan, that later it got converted into Bangladesh. There will be no secretary. Secretary of State for India. It was abolished. Who used to report to the crown. It won't be exist. There will be no Governor General or governors having extraordinary power for the legislation. The central legislation of India that is composed of Legislative Assembly and the Council of State ceased to exist from 14th August 1947. Okay, so this was all about the acts that were done after 1857. These were all the administrative and legislative reform that was done after the 1857 and till 1947. Now from this we are going to study deep into the constitution. We have already discussed like what is constitution, what are the characteristics, what are the types of constitution based on different characteristics in very detail. You can go through the starting lectures and you will able to understand. And now we'll continue deep dive into the constitution, and yes, whatever we have studied it will come throughout this lecture one by one as a glimpse of it, as a short intro of it. Okay, we'll meet on the next lecture. Thank you.